G'day folks. Due to my commitment to open and democratic government along with my personal affection for you all, I thought why not come and have a chat about some of the issues of the day. I think this NCEA announcement is absolutely fantastic. Please don't think less of me or think it unusual, but it was actually the topic that first got me interested in politics was watching my school principal debate Trevor Mallard, and I just always wanted to say that my school principal was right and Trevor Mallard was wrong, and replacing the NCEA is one of the most important things that we can do as a country, because if you don't have a compact body of knowledge rigorously tested that you're passing from one generation to the next, I'd argue you're not doing education the way that you should. So this is something that I think the government should go hard on and take no backward steps. Other than that, happy to talk about whatever you like.
I wondered how this new system, how you took the new system, which seems to reduce some of the flexibility and introduce a lot more rigor, fitted with your appreciation of charter schools that offer kind of the opposite and offer a lot more flexibility. How do those two worlds fit with you?
Well, actually, charter schools offer a lot more flexibility in how you run the school, but they're a lot tighter on the outcomes that you have to get. So charter schools say you have to be able to demonstrate academic achievement and advancement, and that actually requires a rigorous system to do the testing. They have the flexibility. They could use Cambridge, they could use IB, they could use the New Zealand government qualification, as a lot of state schools do, but there's no inconsistency between being tight on the outcomes and actually allowing a bit more innovation on the way you actually run the school to get the children there.
Why not reform NCEA instead of scrapping level one altogether?
Well, I think NCEA was initiated on a principle that you should have a whole lot of unit standards or achievement standards, and then you measure how successful people are based on how many standards they accumulate. And the fundamental objection to that is that while NCEA can be a great scheme if you're in a supportive community that pushes you hard to do intense credits, there's also other easier and softer options. So you have to ask yourself, are you tweaking something, or are you fundamentally changing back to saying this is the body of knowledge you need to know, here's the tests you've got to take, and here's how you're going to be graded. That's actually a different type of system, and it almost, by the sounds of what's proposed, a reversal of what happened in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Do you see the problem is that at the moment that you can effectively get a certain number of credits for doing, I guess a lesser known subject, etc. I don't know, picking music off the top of my head compared to that of English. Is that your central concern at the moment?
Well, it was one of the original criticisms that John Morris made, 25 years ago, is that not all credits are equal, and if you are not pushed to do the really robust credits, I've heard of a school that lets kids go skiing every Wednesday afternoon in the winter term, and they say that that's equal to getting to grips with Newtonian, mechanics or physics. That's one of the criticisms that's always been there, and I just make the point that NCEA could still be a good qualification, but it's what the students make of it. I think for the country, you've got to have something that is strict and requires one standard right across the board.
Isn't the problem though that that's kind of exactly the same scenario with the new model? You still need to pass 4 out of the 5 of your subjects, and you can effectively pick 4 weaker subjects as soon as you get on to year 12, etc.
Well, bear in mind that the government, and this is Erica's thing, they're going to consult, and I completely support what she's doing, so I'm sure she'll address issues like that. But I just make the point that when you have just about any possible constellation, then you don't have a standard, and when you don't have a standard, then you take away the contestability, and you take away the resilience that you build from having to go through some narrow gates and pass or fail.
Are any subjects currently being taught in school potentially going to be stopped? For example, music or anything like that under the new changes?
Well, again, Eric is rolling out a curriculum as well, so that's a separate issue, but I can't imagine that that's in the offing, but of course, we go out and listen, see what people say.
And what can you tell us about the lead up to today in terms of the government's work around consultation with teachers? Could you tell us a bit about how long this road was to get to this announcement?
Look, I think whatever level of consultation you do, there'll be people say you took too long, people say you should have asked more people. I actually think Erica's done a really good job with the level of engagement that she's done with people. So, you know, it ends up being a how long's a piece of string argument.
What level of consultation was done?
Beg your pardon?
What level of consultation was done?
Well, again, that's for her to speak to. I'm here to offer my wholehearted support to the initiative. I think, you know, one of the things that first got me interested in politics, and it's something that I think is essential that we get done.
What do you make of the opposition's response to this?
Well, the opposition need to be a bit constructive. I mean, ultimately, people know New Zealand faces some real challenges and they want to see problem solving, particularly when it comes to this question of passing knowledge from one generation to the next.
Do you see this as the changes as widening the equity gap, or do you think it will close it?
You know, it's interesting. The old left knew that the pathway out of poverty was an education. The new left, you know, they wouldn't recognise the old Labour Party that wanted poor kids to be able to foot it with the best with high academic standards. They decided to take away the high academic standards and actually took away the ladder of opportunity that poorer kids had traditionally had. So I believe that actually having a strong academic standard, you know, it doesn't discriminate if you're rich or poor, you have the opportunity to succeed. You take away the standard, and how does a poorer kid prove themselves? What ends up happening is that you get judged on where you went to school, what's the reputation of the school, who do you know? As soon as you take away rigorous academic standards, you take away opportunity for a kid who might not be from a rich household, but, you know, wants to really work hard and make something of themselves. They should be able to do that.
Is that not happening already in New Zealand?
I think it happens a lot less when, I mean, there will always be, with 5 million people, you can find an example of anything if you want. The question is, what type of system is more likely to promote meritocracy? And I would argue it's exactly the kind of system that Erica's announced.
So you see it closing the equity gap or providing a more equal playing field?
Yeah, I do, because if you have an academic standard where you can prove yourself no matter who you are, then you can foot it. If you have a system where, you know, there's lots of different standards and people end up using other examples. In fact, I was talking to, you know, a principal not so long ago who said, you know, one of the things that astonished her was the lack of entrance exams to schools. Because if you don't have entrance exams, how do you pick people? Well, you know, who do their parents know, for example? So that's how you end up with a lack of meritocracy if you don't have academic excellence.
Are you supportive of potentially raising the age that students can leave school?
Well, it's not something I've thought about lately, but I just make the point that we keep raising the amount of time that students spend at school, and I actually don't know that that's going to make the world a better place. You know, the goal should be to get prepared for life, learn as much as possible, then get out and make the most of it. Whereas, you know, we've added several years to school over the last couple of generations, and I don't know that that's actually left us with better outcomes.
What would be your message to schools like your old school, Auckland Grammar, that have that Cambridge qualification? Is it your encouragement that you would want, you know, Auckland Grammar and others to move across so that everybody in New Zealand comes under your new model?
Well, I mean, the government's obviously going to create the best model it can, but there's a lot to be said for contestability and choice, right? Like, if people have different options, that keeps the pressure on to make sure that the government's offering is good. It keeps pressure on Cambridge, it keeps pressure on IB. I've always personally been in favour of the government doing its best with its model, but also having competition and choice to keep itself honest.
You've had a couple of senior staffers leave your office recently. Do you think, does it suggest anything about perceptions within your office about electoral prospects at the next election?
Not at all. We have one of the most stable, low turnover workforces anywhere in Parliament in the ACT Party. Yes, we've had 2 people that have left within a couple of months of each other, but in both cases there's reasons for that. One of them came on basically on a promise to work on one policy for 3 days a week. She ended up working about 6 days a week, and after 18 months she said, well, look, I got to look after me a bit, and I respect that. Also, at the end of a critical phase with charter schools, it's basically running now. It's not being set up anymore. So that makes sense on its own. And then, you know, my good old friend Stuart, who I've known since Oh, I don't know. I think Richard Prebble might have still been the leader when I met Stu. He's done 5 years. He's done 2 election campaigns. At one point, he actually got hospitalised because he drank far too much V and Red Bull managing the election campaign. So, there's a limit to what you can really sort of extract from people, and I reckon he's at it. So. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Well, with that delightful story, I thank you very much for coming out, and I hope that you have a great day. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, that's all right.